it prompted me to want to ask you about the impact on live entertainment and the economy, mental health. It's so good to get out and about. And I guess, what does Australian Stories mean to you?
Oh, it was, well, look, it was a fantastic performance and production, so energetic and amazing performances from all the lead singers. But yeah, the question around how do we protect Australian stories and make sure that we keep on making Australian stories iconic, protect our culture. I've actually got a push at the moment to hold the government, the Albanese government, to its promise at the 2022 election and the 2025 election that they would implement minimum streaming quotas on the international streamers like Netflix and Stan, that we had to be about 20% of Australian stories and content so that we have that industry is supported in Australia. The international streamers take billions of dollars of profit from the Australian public as a market, but we want to make sure they're investing and putting back into our Australian-made stories.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see the outcome of that. There's certainly a lot of creative people across the country, as you well know, and as you mentioned as well. I wanted to ask you about our top story. Andrew Hastie has removed himself from the Coalition's front bench. A couple of his main issues, again, as you know, net zero and immigration. What's your reaction from his resignation from the front bench?
Well, I think what we're seeing from the Coalition and the Liberal Party since May is they've spent pretty much the entire time talking about themselves, not talking about the Australian public or communities and what they need. It shows a real dysfunction. I think Andrew Hastie is doing what suits him. I think, there is a fair bit of influence behind the scenes by my predecessor here in Warringah, Tony Abbott, I think is really urging him in that sense. And we know Tony Abbott is on the board of Fox News, very close to Rupert Murdoch, and very connected with Advance Australia. So I think there is an agitation around that further conservative and far right that are pushing back against Susan Lee, who's trying to be more moderate for the Liberal Party. And ultimately, they're missing in action when it comes to being there for the Australian people to talk about the issues that are important.
All right, and again, those issues on immigration and also net zero. I do believe we have a clip of James Patterson who is, yes we do, we're going to play it now just on immigration.
More than 1 million people in their first term coming to Australia is higher than any other time in our history. It's not sustainable and it is having impact on infrastructure, housing and services, and Australians are rightly concerned about that. It's important when we talk about that, though, that we do so in a measured and respectful way, that we demonstrate our support for multicultural and migrant communities who have greatly enriched this country.
And Zali, would you agree with any of those comments?
Well, I agree that Australia is one of the most successful multicultural country, that we have incredible diversity and our migrants and our history is rich from that and we've benefited from that. I disagree, though, in relation to blaming our problems when it comes to infrastructure or housing and other issues on migration or immigration, because the reality is there have been problems a long time in the making through poor planning from both sides of government. And it's not just as a result of now the immigration. Reality is immigration is vital for many parts of the Australian economy. And so we have to be really mindful in blaming immigration for perceived issues when in fact a lot of businesses and sectors rely on immigration. For example, obviously Warringah has a lot of hospitality and retail. I think it's something like 4,600 skilled visas for chefs are approved per year. I have businesses just coming to me desperate. They cannot fill roles, which means they cannot be open, they cannot have their business productive. So I think we have to remember skilled immigration serves a very essential need in our communities around businesses being able to operate. We know, for example, aged care is an area where we heavily rely on immigration to be able to have the staff necessary. So I think when you start finger pointing at immigration, you really put at risk growth and the Australian economy.
All right, I wanted to ask you as well, the talk on the protests in Sydney at the Opera House next week. Do you think it should go ahead? We heard the New South Wales Police come out at a statement yesterday, and they're not against anybody protesting, but their main issue for this particular one was the safety. They believe the numbers attending the Opera House might be too large. Do you agree with that?
Look, I'm not familiar with all the details of the proposed protest. I am a little bit critical in the sense that I attended the March for Humanity across the Harbour Bridge, and that was an incredibly peaceful, well-organised march that was downplayed by authorities and police. And in fact, the actions of police in turning protesters back around, the marchers back around on themselves, I think was a more dangerous action than anything else that could have happened. That being said, tensions are high, obviously, around this issue. We have the Trump plan around Gaza. We have Hamas today announcing that they are intending to release hostages but want more detail. We have this incredible humanitarian crisis where I'm not hearing from anyone that there's increased food and essential medical supplies going in to help the desperate civilian population. And then we have as well a number of Australians that have been caught in the flotilla that has now been arrested and by the Israeli forces and the blockade around Gaza. So this is incredibly complex. I think we need to be focused on the humanitarian aspect. I'm just so concerned, and I want to see the release of hostages, and on a really urgent basis, we have to see humanitarian aid go into the Palestinian people.
All right, Zali, thank you so much. Before we let you go, let's end on a high note. The NRL tomorrow, NRLW, Broncos and Roosters, and Broncos again in the NRL tomorrow night against the Storm. Do you have a pick? You just want to have fun?
Locally in Warringah, we've got the Sea Eagles and we've actually got the Northern Bears now, which is the link with WA. So I think I would be in big trouble if I was behind any other teams. But I commend them for their efforts, and I hope it's a good game. But I would actually just do that warning. We know there are spikes around gambling, alcohol and domestic violence around big sporting events. So please, I hope the codes are, vocal in reminding people to be respectful and to make sure we don't have those spikes.
Yeah, well said. Thank you so much, Zali.